I do, actually, and that's my own fault because I don't always practice proper file management.
I am incredibly organized with my file system, but I am constantly struggling with people that I work with, keeping them on the right version update and keeping them on the right file track.
I've wasted a lot of time searching for parts that I've already made, but I didn't remember how I named them, where do I put it, or where do I save it.
I think I would, start building a company that's able to aid in the use of products for neurodegenerative diseases.
It would mean a lot more freedom to be able to choose where to spend that time, and because a lot of the time design work is the fun part, it would also mean a lot more affection for any task or job that I'm working on.
Spending more time thinking about the designs and the changes and the design intent.
It'll be freedom for me, I guess, because that's what I love doing day in, day out. And I think taking away all the other stuff would be awesome.
So much has changed over the last 10 years, hasn't it? Over the last 10 years, what changes have you experienced? I bet the ways you connect to your job and accomplish your work are most certainly different. Progress must be part of your purpose. To make great design successful, you must also master the business of product innovation. Where we used to think of CAD data as the main source of truth, actually product development information is all around us, in every conversation, idea, interaction.
Welcome to 3D Experience World 2021.
As smoothly as your team works together, what about your extended value network?
Let me invite William and Charles from Square aboard. What made you pick 3D Experience platform?
We really needed a mechanism to store and organize revision-controlled CAD data in the cloud. And so we looked to 3D Experience to do that.
For 2023, the Solidworks R&D team, as usual, has delivered an amazing lineup of enhancements to help you work smarter, faster, and together. Not just together as a team, but also connected to your data and your tools. In 2023, we will improve your productivity and optimize your CAD potential. But to truly accelerate your innovation, you need to make all product information available for your entire enterprise to access and act on real time throughout the day, wherever they are. As you look to 2023, how will you continue to improve your productivity and expand creativity? How will you inspire those around you?
My file directory.
Nightmare.
Someone's getting fired.
Words I can't say.
Wasted time. Those are the words.
I'd like to create my own wooden toy range and have that manufactured.
I would be able to use that additional time to collaborate with the SolidWorks community, not just for my benefit, but for other people's benefits as well.
Si tuviera más tiempo, sin duda tendría mejores diseños, más funcionales, incluso más bonitos, que podríamos aplicar al día a día en el trabajo.
You want to try to brainstorm as much as you can to try to work out all the kinks. And I think if we can spend more time in that development state, I think we're going to all do better.
It means a lot. It means I can get my job done a lot more efficiently and effectively.
If I had more time for design, this means I will have more time for fun and less time for the boring stuff.
I would design a lot more stuff. If I had more time to design, it meant that I could build a more easily produced, cheaper in cost, and more widely used part at the end of the day.
Welcome to Solidworks Live, everyone. So if you watched live before, you probably know I always like to start live off with an assurance. So here it is. Today, during our next hour or so together, we're going to show you why the Solidworks you know and love is about to become remarkably better by empowering you with more time to design, right? As it should. So we here at Solidworks, we have a vision, one where being a designer or engineer should consist as much as possible of design and engineering, a vision where things like process and task management, product checks, and markup, searching for files you need, things like, storing files safely and away from overwrites, revision and version management, and every other formerly necessary pull you away from SolidWorks part of your job as a designer and engineer fades a bit further away, that it will fade away into the background by being retrievable, just like what we see here, which is a mock-up of the SolidWorks task pane, right? The task pane is great because you get what you need when you need it right in the foreground. So everything that I'm showing here on this agenda on my screen, we're going to go over at a new feature level. And these new features operate much the same way as this agenda does in this mockup, right? You can just sort of bring them up and they're right there, right inside the tool that you know and love. So with every new seat, every new SolidWorks seat purchased beginning in July 2023, this is about to become a reality as part of subscription. So as we move closer to this massive change in subscription benefits, we're here today on SolidWorks Live to show you how you will never have to leave SolidWorks to do the litany of things that I mentioned earlier ever again. And actually, you look at this list, in many cases, SolidWorks will just do them for you when and wherever possible. So for many of you, the features that you'll see today will be nothing more than one simple activation and download away. So to get us started, setting the stage with an introduction on really what has brought us here technologically today is the star of our SolidWorks 2024 preview skit from this past February, and maybe more relevantly, a longtime SolidWorks user himself, Mark Peterson. Mark, what's going on?
Hey, Sean, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. So you've worked with, for those of you who don't know Mark's worked with SolidWorks outside of these four walls, right? As many of us have. And Mark, if I were to ask you though, in 2023, in the present day, why would you still pick SolidWorks as your tool of choice? What would you say to that question?
Yeah, I mean, I've used a lot of different CAD systems, but really there's two reasons. One is I think it's the best design tool on the planet, first and foremost. And then secondly, it has a fully integrated ecosystem of products, right? So to that first point, I think, SolidWorks is the most widely used, most feature-rich, and most customizable CAD system. It's easy to learn and it's easy to get started. But it also, has advanced tools built into it. So, as your design demands increase, you have the tools that you need to get the job done. However, from a business perspective, like as your business grows, SolidWorks has a suite of tools that are ready for your needs.
And today, right, we're going to talk about some really awesome new functionality. And as we saw in the lead into this episode, you just mentioned this now, we're constantly adding new functionality, right? But today, particularly, that many new SolidWorks users will be able to activate and access beginning in July, adding things onto and into core SolidWorks. It isn't really anything new to longtime SolidWorks users though, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So If you were going to say, let's say we need to start, manufacturing at scale and bring that
Sure.
in-house, we have CAM solutions that simulate the tool paths and that sort of thing. Maybe you're ready to go paperless and add, product manufacturing information data directly to your 3D models. And you can do that with SolidWorks MBD, for example. You can automate creating first article inspection reports with SolidWorks Inspection on that 3D geometry. But maybe you're not ready to go paperless yet or something, and you can just still create those inspection reports just on the 2D drawings. You want to bring injection molding in-house? You have, with SolidWorks Plastics, mold flow analysis that you can get better understanding of your molds. Maybe you want to create your own electrical schematics. Maybe you need to get wire lengths and, route those wires. SolidWorks Electrical has got your back. So, maybe you want to create high quality assembly documentation in parallel with your design work using SolidWorks Composer, or create an interactive web page for your customers to help them find that little replacement part somewhere. These are all tools that are part of the SolidWorks ecosystem, and like I said, fully integrated into SolidWorks. So, you can access all these tools, you can purchase all these tools, as your business grows. And I think that's an excellent aspect of SolidWorks that, our competitors just don't have. Now, with the 3D Experience platform, there are even more benefits and capabilities, like, product lifecycle management and, really amazing, simulation analysis tools, just to name a few. So.
It's interesting. I was, you kind of see I was watching along with the video you provided, just really a trip down memory lane. You could even see the interfaces where it had changed, even the resolutions, right? When we used to have different monitors, kind of like we saw in the intro video or the countdown video to this episode. While the interface and certainly the features and the functionality and the performance of the software has changed and gotten better, a lot of our common delivery methodologies have not changed, and that's true through to today, right? I mentioned in the lead into this episode and showed kind of in a sort of a teaser with my agenda that a lot of the new features, the new toolkit that a lot of SolidWorks users will have available will be available through a very sort of native feeling for longtime SolidWorks users that add in sort of task pane, pop out, go back in interface. So yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. And you mentioned, this isn't the first time we've done that. Like, it's kind of an a la carte thing. If you need sim tools, you can pop them in. You need access to commonly used hardware, use Toolbox, pop it out, drag a component in, and it's right there, and that's worked. So let's keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's cool to see. Yeah, like you said, to kind of look back and see how long this has been going on. But SolidWorks has has a history of creating these fully integrated tools, and the integration is, I think, the key part there, because it's not something that you have to, let's say, export a neutral file format and then pull it into some other tool, and then what if the design changes? We've had, let's say, for example, simulation. Inside SolidWorks, we've had basically a loop where you could tell SolidWorks, I want you to change, the thickness of this rib until you get to, let's say, this factor of safety for this product. That type integration is something that we've always been really, really good at. And, that's not changing, of course. So we're going to continue doing that into the future.
For sure. And it's interesting as we get into deeper dives into a lot of the commonly used areas, but very integral areas, obviously, of almost everyone's workflow here. I think we'll continue to see that. But elevator pitch time before we get into the specifics. Once again, let's pretend you don't work here, which, Mark, that would make me very sad. But let's pretend you don't work here, and I'm a designer or engineer, and I'm at a SolidWorks user group meeting somewhere, and I ask you, I say, Mark, give me the simplest idea of why I should care at all about what SolidWorks is releasing to me in July. What would you say? Why is that person going to be excited?
Yeah, so, basically just kind of like what you said earlier. I mean, every new seat of SolidWorks now comes connected to the 3D Experience platform. So, that means, the first major benefit I would say is that, you can easily and securely collaborate with people inside or outside of your organization with, maybe just something as simple as powerful markup tools, for example. And you're going to see some of that today as well. But, if you want to take it a step further, you have access to a secure, password protected, CAD aware, fully backed up repository for all your project data, right? So powerful search commands and bookmarks make sure that your data is organized the way you want it to be. And it's easy to move your files around and reorganize them because the platform understands the sometimes complex file references, and it makes them fully visible and transparent to you as the designer. So you can also create and manage revisions and the states of files and so much more. And these are things that you can opt into. It's available for you if you want to use it. You don't have to, you don't have to change anything about what you're doing if you don't want to, but it's there for you if you want to use it. So I don't want to, steal everybody's thunder. We're going to see a lot of really cool stuff on today's show, but yeah, so stay tuned so you can kind of check out more of those things in detail.
Yeah, and even that, I think thematically, as you and I kind of wrap up this little segment here, it speaks to some of the stuff that we were talking about, right? Even think about something as core as assembly mates, right? We've been adding assembly mates as we go throughout the years, adding different options within assembly mates, making them more robust. But it doesn't mean that every SolidWorks user is using every single SolidWorks assembly mate. So just like with these new features, right? You might find, hey, this helps me do X, Y, or Z a little bit better, a little bit easier. And you said a lot of stuff there. So we're going to definitely need to take some deeper dives with some time in different sections. But overall, this segment, this beginning segment, it's all about user experience, right? How can we make the user experience seamless? And that's, I think, at the heart of who we've tried to be in our best days, right, as SolidWorks. So, Mark, thank you so much for setting the stage here for the rest of these topics as we continue to explore why SolidWorks, for just about every user potentially, can be a whole lot more convenient to use.
Yeah, thank you, Sean.
For sure. So, it's interesting, again, as we go back to this sort of mini agenda that I have here, one of the challenges that I faced as I conceptualized this particular episode of SolidWorks Live was I guess really the juxtaposition or the contrast of how some, of the descriptions here are super simple, but paired with this magnitude of the potential changes and, how they can affect your everyday work as SolidWorks users. And one item that certainly fits that bill is this next topic, which is labeled finding files. Think searching for your files, opening your files, things that we have to do every single day, multiple times per day. And the way that we've done this hasn't materially improved or changed within most programs in years. But I have to say it sure is about to for SolidWorks 3D CAD. And to help us grasp why any of this makes any sense, and why, if you're a SolidWorks designer or engineer, as many of you are, why you should certainly be paying attention to this particular section, is my teammate, Andrew Gross. Andrew, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, Sean? Great to be here, man. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Welcome to SolidWorks Live. So, hey, let me ask the obvious here. We are both CSWPs. We're CSWEs, right? We're certified SolidWorks experts.
Absolutely.
We spent a lot of time in SolidWorks, right, over the years.
Oh, yeah.
You're here to talk about things like saving and opening CAD data. And my rebuttal, or probably the obvious question or prompt, would be, hey, I've been able to do that as long as SolidWorks has been an application. So what's the big deal?
Yeah, I mean, these are fundamentals, right? Opening, saving. So in SolidWorks, come July, yeah, we'll see some changes, but they're really amazing improvements to how we kind of normally use SolidWorks, and it's not a huge difference, right? So let's just start off by looking at how we open. Choosing File Open, we've been doing that for years. But we'll see a new button now, Open from 3D Experience. So this now connects me to the cloud, to the 3D Experience platform, where I can search for and find all of the items that I can access that are available to me. So in this case, I have over 10,000 items that I can access on my platform. So this would be one way that we could open it directly from the cloud. Another cool way is using these things called bookmarks. Okay, bookmarks are really, really cool. I like to think of them kind of like, favorites in like a web browser, right?
Okay.
So I can kind of assemble parts and assemblies, things that I'm working on all the time, or I have another bookmark for like hardware that I use all the time and I'm constantly bringing in assemblies, or even on like a project by project basis, right? And I can share these bookmarks with other teammates, so we're all working from the same set. It's a really efficient way to have stuff that you use all the time or using currently always at your fingertips. And when I want to open something, again, we're going to see really kind of stuff we've seen for years. I can filter to top level assemblies within this bookmark. And then when I select it, right, open it as resolved, lightweight, or large design review. So this should look pretty normal, right? So this is how we tend to open stuff. So when I go to open, it's going to pull all of this stuff from the cloud and load it right here locally on my install of SolidWorks. So this boom arm assembly, right? Say I need to finish up this design, right? I know that I need to connect this hydraulic piston to this base plate, mounting plate, and I know there's something that we've used in the past, some bracket that's going to fit here. But I don't know much about it. I mean, I know it's a bracket, but I know very little about it. So right from within SolidWorks, opening up the task pane, you mentioned that earlier, doing a lot of stuff right within SolidWorks in the task pane. Well, I'm just going to search for bracket on my entire platform. I get 25 results, and 5 of them, well, they look exactly like the part that I'm looking for. So I got 5. It's like, okay, so it's probably one of these. So I can now start filtering these results using attributes of these parts, right? And we call that tagging. So I'm going to open up my little tags panel. And first thing I'm going to do, well, I know that I want to filter on physical product, right? I'm not looking for a drawing. Okay, so that's going to shrink my search results. And there's other stuff I can search on. Say, if I know the owner of it, or when it was created, or when the last modified, some date stuff. Or I also know that this part was made from AISI 1020 steel. So now I just have my 5 individual parts here. So let's we're slowly filtering down.
Sure.
So the part I'm looking for, I know it was on like a production product that we had, right? So it's probably going to be released, not in work. So I can even filter on that. So I'll choose released, and now I have 1 result. That's awesome.
There you go.
So yeah, it's great. So to make sure this is the one I want, well, I can preview it again right from within the task pane. I can take a look at it. Hey, it has that grease port. That's what I was looking for. This is the right part, I'm pretty sure. But it's not actually this part that I'm looking for. It's an assembly that this part was part of. So I can choose this relations tab, and this is going to show me all the kind of connections that this part has to everything else that I have access to on the platform. So I see there's a couple drawings of this part, and here, the parent is this subassembly. This is actually what I was looking for from the beginning. Cool. So I can just drag this right into SolidWorks graphics area and start to make this thing in place. So at this point, oh, sorry, what was that, Sean?
No, that's super interesting. I mean, so, you're essentially, first of all of those areas that you looked at, filtering, by who created the document, the state. Sometimes I look at software like this and I think to myself, well, how much implementation time did you really need to, were you adding, how many of those attributes were custom? Did you have to hook them to SolidWorks files through some sort of code, or, some kind of complex setup to customize it to work this way, and cool demo, but I don't know how to do that kind of thing. So can you speak maybe a little bit on that part of it?
Absolutely. We like to use this term CAD aware, right? Which is Windows Explorer probably would consider that not a CAD aware environment, right? It's
No.
like when's the last time you saw something oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and change the name of this part? You're like, whoa, don't do that.
Yeah,
Or I'm
no,
just
this
going to move
doesn't.
these
Yeah, this does
folders
not feel
around
like.
a little bit. And you're like, don't do that. It's going to blow
Right.
up. Right. So this is not that environment, right? All that stuff kind of is the automation behind the scenes. All those connections are made and they remain constant. So yeah, I'll show a little bit more about that in just a sec.
Yeah, and
so
you're kind of getting into it, right? Making CAD relations, right? They are part of the way that many CAD systems work, right? You have your individual parts, your assemblies, maybe any drawings that are hooked to them. And a lot of times over the years, we've talked about this idea of CAD relations and managing them and making sure they don't break. But I think what you're about to show is actually making CAD relations work for you, like something that works to your advantage, not again managing them, or like you said with Windows, like not putting this crazy amount of time and mental effort and best practice into making sure that Windows doesn't allow you or someone else, right, to break them somehow. So yeah, feel free. I'd love to see more of that.
Sweet. Yeah, no, but you make a good point. Because sometimes people think of like CAD relations or references as like a burden because all these, but it's actually that's the benefit of the SolidWorks platform, is that all these relations are there. The 3D Experience platform just really eases that entire thing. So say I finished like working on this boom assembly, right? So I put in my stuff, I made these changes. So the next thing we want to save it, right? And saving is super easy. So just, going up to the save menu, and now I'm choosing to save this to the 3D Experience platform. Now, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lock everything that I've changed. And what that just ensures is that I'm not overwriting anyone else's stuff. Because, that's always the worst. You never want a system where, they who saved last wins, right? It's a collaborative environment that we want.
Andrew,
right?
even right here, there's so much detail you can get into, but it's interesting because we've been talking a lot about Windows, right? Because that's really, for a lot of us, that's what we know. Like we know what it looks like to save into a very Windows Explorer style like folder interface, which is very bare bones. It's like, what's the file type? What's the name? Maybe there's a date modified column shown. Of course, there's the file name shown, stuff like that. But really, you're not seeing anything near this level of detail. But it seems like, I guess what we're doing is we're putting that sort of pertinent detail, knowing how designers and engineers work, right in front of you, right when you need it.
Right when you need it, and definitely not more information than you need, which is sometimes can be the same problem. It's like, too much info. So this is like, it's what you need when, but when you don't need it, it's not there. So it's really efficient. And so before I save, right, the next thing I'd want to do is I want to unlock all of my documents so that it's locked, I own it, and then it saves, and then I unlock it. So anyone else on my team can now go ahead and make edits to places that, this document. So I'm kind of releasing the ownership. So now that I have this assembly put together, maybe I'm a little interested in how that subassembly I brought in, how it's put together. So hopefully, maybe someone created a drawing here that's going to give me a little bit more information. But I don't know if one exists. So what I can do is, say I zooming in on it in the graphics area. Here I can, use breadcrumbs, like we love breadcrumbs, right? And select that subassembly. And now in the task manager, just by right-clicking that subassembly, I can choose an app called the Relations app. So again, all those references that are baked in, I have access to them. So I can say, oh, this has 7 children. Let's open that up. And this really great graphic view. Well, those are all the parts that comprise the subassembly. That makes sense. And then on the parent side, well, first we're going to see the entire boom assembly because I just added it to this thing. So obviously that's apparent. But I can also see there that someone had created a drawing already. I didn't know it was there, but I could really easily kind of search for it based on the relationships that this subassembly has with everything else that I have access to on my 3D Experience platform, right? So, just dragging, dropping, I'm just dragging and dropping this drawing right into the graphics area. And now I can review it and, see how this thing's put together or whatever I need to do with this drawing. It's all right there. And so hopefully I've shown that, like, while knowing just a small amount of information about what we want to find on the platform, I can find it using just what I know. Not like, well, I know that this this drawing is called DRW00002325. Let me just go ahead and punch that in and memorize that. Right?
Exactly. If that's how your mind works, great. That works too.
Go for it.
But
Yeah,
if
go
that's
nuts.
not how it works, right? If that's not how it works, then it does seem like it's a lot easier to do this sort of thing. And even I think in as I was watching a little bit of your demo, even little things like using breadcrumbs, which, as you said, we've had breadcrumbs in SOLIDWORKS for years. And for those of you who don't know the terminology, it essentially just means like when you click on an artifact, say within the model space inside of SOLIDWORKS, it gives you different icons and a different layering, showing you just different ways to select different parts of your parts, your assemblies or drawings. And then as you clicked it, it's sort of dynamically in that tree that gives us all this rich information, this rich detail about the status of our projects, who owns the projects, its status. It actually explores dynamically to the pertinent device. So it's like fully integrated, not just right on the task pane, but also it does sort of interoperate well together too, which I think is pretty cool.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, clicking in the graphics area and it's highlighting over there in my cloud connected environment so that I can do those operations, those cloud operations over here, but all, yeah, like you're saying, connected to the graphics area, connected to SOLIDWORKS, all the same thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it's interesting, Andrew. You were the first real sort of deep dive presenter, but I would say, just like I was saying with Mark, with assembly mates, there is a lot of capability that many SOLIDWORKS users will have at their disposal. Even if I was interested in just the aspects that you spoke on, it would at least compel me to want to download this extra feature set. So yeah, awesome, man. Thank you so much for jumping on SOLIDWORKS Live as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sean.
For sure. Okay, so as we continue this palooza of I don't know, practical time waster enders, let's get into our next topic. So let me start though with a question. Have you ever used the end of your file name as a version history tracker, like like Andrew was saying, bracket underscore final or bracket underscore rev a? Have you ever done that and seen, I don't know, things break, relations break, like Andrew was saying? Have you ever, hopefully not, but have you ever maybe shipped the wrong thing because of that? I know this next guy hasn't. So let's welcome on another CSWP, CSWE to get into this very topic, and that's Mike Sandy. Mike, welcome to SOLIDWORKS Live.
Sean, I do that all the time still with non-cache files, my PowerPoints, my Adobe files, Rev A, final. This is the last one, I swear, .ppt. So I've totally been there.
I know. I would say like there have been times throughout the years where I would say, it's like when you're saving stuff to your hard drive, especially your personal hard drive, all of a sudden, a program that you need to install won't install because you don't have sufficient hardware space or hard drive space. And you're like, how could this be? But most likely you think back and you're like, how many copies of files that I've named like the same thing, but I've suffixed it differently? Do I have one here, and how much space is that wasting? And it's a crazy problem. But yeah, I was hoping you would come clean.
We can get away with it with other things like PowerPoint, though, because it doesn't have all those complex references that CAD files create. Referencing to drawings, other files. So there are still flat files out there. Sure, you can do it, but there is a better way, right? And we're lucky that come July, everyone's going to have access to a better way. So we're super excited about that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you just heard Andrew, right? We were just talking about these, how, like you said, in July, many SOLIDWORKS users will have access, super simple access to solve these, like we're saying, these age-old problems, associated with design engineering work. And a big problem I could think of starts with that very issue, right? You're basically using a file name to append a version, or in some cases, maybe it's not the file name, it's you're building out a whole folder structure to deal with versions and revisions. So, as we get into this area, let's talk a little bit about that. How can these new tools, these new features, in a plug and play sort of capacity, begin to help us very easily with these common necessities, right? Like with versioning and revisioning.
Totally. I went through and I actually built an example of maybe the status quo of a non-data management user to walk through. And as I was doing this, I was laughing to myself thinking, this is so crazy because I haven't had to deal with this in so long. But doing this example, I wanted to go through and just do a basic change operation to this cylinder guard, widen it out a little bit, make it a little bit easier. So I think most of us know, go inside of here. In SolidWorks, you can create copies right from the UI. You could go into Windows and copy it that way too. But in this case, just doing like a save as new will create a new actual file. Yeah. So save as, this will create a new file. And something I wanted to point out when you get inside of here is I'm going to add that extension, right? The V1 or V1 final or whatever you want to do. But notice that down at the bottom here, we actually have some settings, some options to be aware of. In this case, I'm going to use the, oops, let me go back. I'm going to use the, I just lost that. Sorry, guys. I'm going to use that save as new, and there's going to be a copy inside of it. There's a couple other options you can do when you're doing this, like the save as copy and continue and save as copy and open. Be aware of what these do, because these actually will update the file actively, or maybe just creates the new copy and keeps the assembly that you're working from or those references. So read the little tooltip that flies out if you're not familiar with this. Okay, so we've created the V1, and I'm going to do the save as copy, and I'm going to do that open option. Now, I'm not updating the assembly. I've just created a new copy of the part. Another dialog asked me, do you want to keep the old one or the new one? Well, we're going to do the
Has anyone ever seen this? It's like this is a classic, like, let's see if everyone's awake question, because this is one I'm sure this is a question I'm sure everyone has seen.
And if you maybe saw it one time and then you haven't seen it since, you probably checked that don't show again in this session button, which makes it go away. And sometimes monitor when you uncheck and check those, because there's cases where if you dismiss it once, it stays dismissed, which can be problematic.
Right.
All right. So pointing out, I've got the V1 file open here. Now we'll go through, we'll make some changes, right? I'm going to just use some Instant 3D, great little tool. We're going to widen it out. And I'll change the color just to show, really denote that this is a new part, a new version. And we'll just make sure we save those changes to my local drive. So I'm going to save it to the PC in this case. Okay, so now let's go back to the assembly. Oh no, let's move it, right? So we want to go that old file, the old part. Make sure nobody's building from that one anymore, because we don't want it.
Yeah.
Obsolete it. Let's just put it in a different folder or delete it, right? You can just get rid of it. I don't like to delete stuff. I'll obsolete it. So I think everyone out there in the audience, what's going to happen, right? We come into my assembly, we open it up, and right away we're missing the file. The reference is gone.
Another one. The first common to all message that we looked at, that can be okay. You just need to kind of know what to do. This one is almost never a great thing.
No, especially when you have lots of missing ones, right? And again, as Andrew kind of alluded to, when you get connected to the platform, you don't have to worry about this anymore. All these references are managed in the back end. All right, so let's go ahead and find that file. And I know where it is because I created the new one. I know the name. But man, imagine if, John or Bill or Susan came in and wanted to work on this. All of a sudden, hey, we're out of luck. They don't know what's going on. So not too bad, but that was 4 or 5 minutes of wasted time just having to do some file naming and archaic background noise, right? It's just not a good way to come into work and have to deal with that. And even more problematic as we talk about references is, what if that new guard was specific to only that boom, but yet it's used in tons of other assemblies? This is where people get mad. This is where
Reddit can really,
Totally, man. So it's just it's an old way of doing things, and we don't need to do it anymore like this. It's just not worth it. So I wanted to show you kind of what we can expect when we get into this July technology kind of unleashing to the entire population. And we'll just go through a basic knuckle, making a change. Now, as I walk into SolidWorks and I open this up, and Andrew showed you how I can search from the platform, you'll see a few things. First off, we see that up top, it's telling me it's not locked. Okay, no big deal. Over here is another way it can show in all the what we call life cycle indicators on the little flyout. So it's telling me this is the loaded on the server. It's not locked, meaning anyone can use it. The revision information, and is this the current revision? So that all looks good. Now I want to make some changes. I'm going to actually work the other spot you can work, and depending on how you work as a user, SolidWorks is always very customizable to your workflows. I'm going to actually open this up so we can see as well. Okay, cool. So let's do this. Let's lock our file, and this gives me access, and it's going to lock everyone else away. They can't actually open up and overwrite this. The intro, I think it was Neil, love Neil Lanto. He pointed that out, man. Overwriting files is bad news, right?
So in other words, I guess if you are, you can kind of see that utility can be made of some of the things that Andrew was showing, some of the things that you're showing, even if it's just you working on your stuff, right? Like you think about how many times like people talk about overwriting files, and sure, it can be common, unfortunately, that other people unintentionally overwrite your files. But sometimes, as I like to remind people whenever we're talking about this stuff, that sometimes it's you, sometimes it's me doing it to myself. So even just something as simple as a lock unlock feature, and seeing in one of those column tabs when you need it, when to pop it out, right? Either way, like who has ownership of that file, who has it locked. It saves you from unnecessary overwrites, but also saves you from unnecessary conversations and confusion about like what is going on with this file. So I think that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah, just a simple little lock unlock does a lot. It just toggles that read only, but it's very secure. Now I tried to lock it, and I don't know if you noticed, but I can't. That's because as I look to the right, I see it's released. This is ready to go to manufacturing. We don't want any changes. So just like that, we know that this knuckle in the revision it's at is in a release state. So what if we do need to make some changes? You can do that really easily right through here. I can actually come in and say, hey, let's go from released and let's put this back into an in-work state. As it does that, it says maturity change is successful. And when we come in, we'll take a look. We'll just do a quick refresh here. Everything is accurate. And now we've got in work. Can I lock it? All right, we'll go ahead and make the lock. It's locked by me, and now I can start making some modifications to the part.
Cool. So this shows you like that little key, and that key, of course, that means locked. And just like we were showing with save as, right? If you hover over any of those icons on the right, and this is something I always think about with new software. Like you can see a little tooltip, and it just tells you like, hey, this is what this means. This is what that means. So yeah, it's pretty nifty.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. So if you're new to like data management or using a PDM type system, this is easy stuff to pick out. We're not, you don't have to learn a whole new language or anything like that. It's just dive in, make it user friendly, and just do your work, but without having to worry about all those references. So now that I've got this new version, I can come in and we can create a new revision as well. So maybe we are changing fit, form, or function, and we want to go through and just say, let's widen the knuckle clearance, right? So I'm going to just add that note in there. We'll make the revision to it. It's going to create a new revision. I don't have to do any name changing. This is part of the metadata in the file. It's just done, right? So revision B right there looks good. I made the change already. Well, we went widen up that knuckle spot, and just like Andrew showed, I'm going to save it. But just like that, we've got a complete new part to it. I don't have to find it, locate it, rename it, obsolete anything. It's all done, just as simple as that. Now, Sean, I went through and I actually got one here that has a couple revisions to it. And just
Okay.
to show you what it looks like, so if I were to open this up and
Mm-hmm.
go to that first revision, we can see it's got Rev A. It's in work. This should actually be released, but in work. But it's telling me right away, like, hey, you got the wrong part there, buddy. No big deal. You can come through and just say, hey, get me the latest revision. Replace this file, latest revision. And it'll look on there and say, how many revs are there? Let's just go to the newest, latest, and greatest rev. And I
Why
think I've
didn't you,
got like,
Mike? I thought you were. Why weren't you supposed to copy into the same folder and just overwrite it?
right, exactly. And there, I know I'm working on the latest rev, and I can continue my work right on this part. And it's just as simple as that. Now, just to tab on one other thing, because Andrew got into the references, right? And this is where revision management is really important, is as we start to create all sorts of different reference files, is that revisions can be attached to assemblies as well. So if you're actually adding new components, or again, changing fit form function, you need to tweak that. You can do it on the assembly level, and that can actually be attached to different revs in the different part. So same thing, we see that I'm working and out of this revision is the wrong one, but we have the correct knuckle in there. That's good. Rev C, we're reflecting that. What I can do is do more bulk operations to say, let's replace or update revisions if there's multiple files that need it to be changed. And then here, this gives me a dialog and it says, hey, we can update. This is already accurate. I wanted to leave that at A for the live here, but it updated for me when I did the last change, which is great. And you can do individuals, or you can do a bulk operation to get all your latest revs or individual rev bumps as needed, just simply through easy UI. And Sean, that's like revision and data management for the user. That's all you need to know, and that's all going to be available to you guys in the audience come July. So how cool is that?
That's really cool, and I always like to bring it back. I think a lot of us, we think of, we start with the benefit that it'll have to us in our work, right? That's where you start. And maybe you'll have ideas for how, X, Y, or Z feature can help. And this is with any software, right? How it can help your group overall, your company overall. This stuff is, again, stuff that you could just pick up and find benefit of. It's kind of like the things that we're showing today through the power of an add-in in a very plug and play way is kind of picking up where Windows sort of naturally left off.
Totally.
It's giving you, right? It's like giving you these really powerful tools to help you just be a designer, be an engineer. And a lot of times historically, it's like you think of, PDM stuff, right? You hear that acronym, you might be thinking like, I got to learn how to use this whole system and everything. You got to get trained on it. And this, like you were saying with those tooltips and some of the simplicity of these operations, it's pretty easy to catch on with and very easy to just start using.
Yeah, and you look back to the old way and you're like, what was I doing? You just kind of laugh because it just makes life so much easier.
Yeah, and like Andrew showed, like you showed, it's giving you access to new options. So for example, if there is a part, and I always like to tell people this too with these new features that are coming out, if there's a part where it's like I just need to sketch something up and send it to a laser cutter and I'm never going to touch it again, just one-off part that I'm sending to a machine, you don't have to save it here. Like, would you put that would you put a photo, like a screenshot of something for, maybe some directions, or like a picture of a note, that you need for an appointment? Would you want to save that to a cloud area? No, you just want to throw it out. You just need it for the time being. So you don't have to save or open everything from that area. But for these sorts of things, like certainly if you're resume in this case, like you certainly might want to use something like this. So you can use it when and if you need it. And I think that's
a good point to remember. And come July is that you don't have to start using these tools. They become available to you. So in the audience, if you're like, oh my gosh, come July, it's a big change. No, same SolidWorks, and love. You'll just have the option to start to integrate these into your daily lives at your own speed, when you're ready to do it, when you have the time. So just be aware of that.
Yeah. So another, we've been talking about a lot about how we work, right? And how we operate. And, I want to talk about another kind of common area in that vein, common area of the design workflow. And that's, part of the job as engineers. And it's literally the work about the work, right? Tracking tasks, fielding questions about them, dealing with people who don't have SolidWorks, asking us a bunch of questions about everything. So you think about the stuff that you just showed us. It's probably gonna help a lot of people, with keeping those commonly untracked, needless back and forth, keeping those things from happening over really important things like we just saw: project status, file ownership, finding the right files at the right times, etc. But again, what about keeping tabs on the CAD related tasks that involve other people, like your teammates or even other groups within your company? How are we making this type of work easier to track? And I guess, like I was saying, less intrusive on your individual design and engineering time.
Totally. You mean like just sticky notes? This is how I track my tasks. I just use these.
Oh, how about that? That would be great on
they...
SolidWorks Live if we just said, oh yeah, what's new? Sticky notes, physical sticky notes. Here, we're gonna ship them to all of you.
No, it's really important, right? And I think we all take on a lot of work through our daily lives, and it's hard to manage. I do use sticky notes still, but for just other stuff, like don't forget to schedule a haircut on that one. But inside of here, where we're actually having a manager or someone you're collaborating with, maybe assigning tasks to you, or on a personal level, just like, I know I have to get this done this week. Right inside of my session, in that little task pane we've been talking about, it goes above just like the file management side. I've got mine configured to all the different little apps that I love. So like in this case, collaborative tasks. So we'll open up this widget, and this just is going to load my daily tasks. I can expand this out a little bit, and we'll take a look to see what I got going on. In this case, hey, watch SolidWorks Live. So there's a task here for it. We're actually doing that now. So I'm going to move that to 100%, even though not quite done. And we'll save that task. And that actually moves that over to my nicely completed column. What's super great about this too is that these tasks, they're more than just like a virtual sticky note. So in case like here, this knuckle assembly, got to start working on this one. Maybe we're about 45%. But as I scroll down, what we'll see is that there's actually attachments and deliverables available for this. And what I can do as a user is drag in CAD data from these tasks. So in this case, it's saying, hey, we need to now add this pin in here. So I can go ahead, we'll drop that into my assembly, and we'll start making our mates just use my hold all to get that into position. And just like that, we're starting to work on this task from attachments. And this can be, single, it could be a PDF, it could be some images. It's not limited to just CAD. And Sean, it goes both ways too. Check this out. So maybe we're looking good, but we want to go ahead and say, hey, we've got this. I can now come through from the assembly tree. I can drag that CAD data into the deliverables, and just like that, it adds in the entire assembly to that task. We can save it. And now my manager, friends, whoever I'm working with, or myself, all of that is just added to a trackable item. So this is like a really intense sticky note that can hold CAD data, track CAD data, and we can just move that into the completed item.
I just pictured you writing like 12 fields on a sticky note. I'm like, so I had one question, just a question about so you did that really slick sort of drag and drop from the feature tree. Just basically clicked on the the name of the part or the assembly that was open, dragged it over into the sort of deliverables area. So is that, I guess, is that akin to like if I were sending a part or an assembly or pack and go or whatever, like in an email, and saying kind of the same thing, like, yeah, work on this and then send it back. Is it the same kind of thing?
Well, yeah, no. I mean, we're still retaining everything on our enriched database, right? So if there's updates or changes to things, it's still going to always be looking at the latest, greatest new file to it. Where
so you're not making like a copy, like.
No, yeah, it's always pointing to that file. So no matter who's looking at it, where they're getting it, it might be marketing grabbing the newest version. They're always going to get to what's the accurate, right, representation. You send out an email to somebody, man, as soon as you do that, you're that's going to be obsoleted because you've got any changes to make, they're not going to see that. So yeah, we're always pointing at the single source of truth. You probably hear that buzzword quite a bit, but it's true. That's the brilliance behind the platform.
Awesome. Well, Mike, next time you're here on live, maybe, let's talk something else you're passionate about. Let's talk maybe simulation or photo rendering. Have to keep you fresh on the other stuff you're passionate about too, right?
For sure.
All right, man. We'll catch up soon. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
For sure. All right. So we are about to get into some stuff here that technically isn't even available for use by anyone yet with this next section. And the R&D team here has been working super hard together with one another to help make another super simple but super necessary part of your work as designers and engineers super easy and super accessible. So, today the phrase SolidWorks viewer actually is one of the most searched for SolidWorks topics on the planet. So we have data to support that. And we've certainly all used something. I think everyone watching this episode surely today, even, many people that work, say, in marketing, like Mike was just mentioning, we've all used something that can qualify as a SolidWorks viewer, whether that's SolidWorks itself, of course, that can be used as a viewer, or, a free program like eDrawings, which has been around for decades now. So why do people, my question would be, why do people still search for SolidWorks viewer, right? Isn't that a solved problem? And, what are we going to give you access to with new SolidWorks seats to make this more technically modern and easier to do than ever before? Well, unfortunately, I don't have all the answers here, but I do know a guy who can give us some of the answers. Here is my teammate, Brad Williamson. Brad, how are you?
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Good, man. Welcome to SolidWorks Live. So, as I was mentioning, free, easily accessible file sharing and viewing. This is something almost anyone who's worked with 2D or 3D CAD for almost any reason has sought out at some point in their careers. And, as I was mentioning earlier, this is a reality as the OEM for what we feel is the best CAD software on the planet that we've observed at great scale, right?
Yeah. And I think you're probably talking about external collaboration, right?
Sure.
I need to get I need to get a file to someone so they can machine it, or I need to get a file to someone maybe just so they can view it. But I think the before somebody can view your CAD, you have to share it first. And sharing to external recipients has some nuances, and there can be some challenges to that. First off, you have to decide like how much of your information do you want to share to someone? Do you need to protect your IP? So in that case, maybe a step file, some kind of a neutral file is the way to go. If you do have to share native data with someone downstream, someone external to you, well, now all of a sudden you've got those file references that Andrew was talking about. So you got to account for that. So sharing can be tricky.
Yeah, it definitely can be tricky. Like Mike and I were just saying, sharing via email, of course, that's not perfect. That's not great. But, let's be real for a lot of use cases, right? And this is one of the reasons why I like this show. I like when we do SolidWorks Live because we can ask realistic questions, not always softballs. So I'll just say, we addressed a lot of the scenarios that you cited with Pack and Go. The 2 clicks, file, Pack and Go, what feels like a billion years ago. What would you say to that?
Yeah, Pack and Go. I use Pack and Go all the time. It's a great tool for gathering up those CAD references. It even does some cool stuff too. It'll collect your toolbox files. It will collect simulation results. I think it even does your rendering materials. So it does even more than just the CAD file references. So that's a really good tool for creating that package, but it still doesn't solve the sharing issue. You still got to transfer that package or that file to someone on the outside. So nobody wants a 1 gigabyte email attachment. Let's face it. Okay. So what else do we do? I see a lot of people using commercial off-the-shelf type file sharing. No problem with that, except I think a lot of people are using their personal accounts to do that, and that's there's some risk there, you know. So gosh, I still think that for some secure environments, guess what people are still doing? Mailing a SSD or a flash drive, maybe password protect it for a little more security in case it gets, you know, lost in the mail or whatever. But sharing is tricky. Everybody's still facing that.
Yeah, it's true. You're right.
So I think in a second I've got a clip to roll here for you, but we're gonna show you some of the things that we're working on.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see it myself. And as I mentioned in the intro before we even brought you on, right? This is stuff that no one is using right now because it has not technically been released, and it will be released in July, very, very soon.
This is future stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned, you know, a lot of times these file shares, if we're just transferring data, these data sets can be very large, prohibitively large, in fact. And a lot of times you're not looking to maybe share all of the information for one reason or another. Maybe you're just sharing it for viewing purposes, maybe a little bit of markup, whatever it is. But what about, say, again, that example of viewing? I mentioned e-drawings. E-drawings was developed many years ago. It's served lots of customers very well over the years. There's no doubt about it. So why are we making a new tool and workflow available?
Yeah, well, e-drawings is great. I mean, it's been around for 20 some odd years. It still does the job, but it does require folks to download and install software. Okay, and that for some environments, you know, that is a roadblock for some customers. And I would say again, too, e-drawings being a great viewer, it still doesn't address that sharing issue. You still have to transfer the file. So what we're adding in this new functionality that we're talking about here, we're adding in some capabilities where you can share now right from your SolidWorks session, neutral or native file formats, and it creates a time-coded shareable link. Optionally, you can even specify email recipients that you want to receive that data. And it's all done within the SolidWorks modeling session. So it's just a more seamless and secure way to share data externally. Really cool.
Wow. Okay, so just kind of watching along with this. Interesting. Okay, so this is one of the first times I'm seeing this. Again, this is not available to anyone yet. So a couple of things, right? That drop down is really convenient, and I'm just recalling conversations I've had, you know, user group meetings, just, you know, visiting different customers about this need to share different types of files, right? And maybe it's not always a SolidWorks native file. So having that option and kind of following the natural workflow of things, because we have an idea in mind, either to meet a requirement or to meet a purpose. Like we want a neutral format because we don't want to share a bunch of IP, maybe that could be a reason.
Or depending on what your end recipient, they might not be on SolidWorks. They might be on a CAM system, or they might be on some other CAD system. So yeah, we have to account for those kind of things of what your end user is going to do with that data.
Yeah, and I think some of the options too. I mean, it's a super simple interface in terms of the amount of options you have and the workflow. It seems from what I just saw. But you know, the option to specify that you're going to send it to specific other people or to just generate a link to where you could send it to anyone, right? That is interesting, because if you're saying, for example, I'm only going to permission this through that simple toggle, that only these people are able to see it, that's inherent protection, right? I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and there's security built into the link as well. It's time coded, and ultimately you're in control of who you give that link out to. Yeah, so some security both ways.
Okay, and so all right, so I see within SolidWorks it's very, very easy to do that. Which again, we've seen a ton of stuff already today, just about the hour we've been together. Even this little bit of functionality, this seems very convenient. So, but you know, what does the recipient see on their end?
Well, as soon as they click on the link, it opens right up into a browser-based viewer, and that's the differentiator. You don't have to download or install any software on the end user's end of things. There's no separate file transfer. So once it opens up in their browser, they can view and measure and create markups. They can add comments. And what's kind of cool about the commenting too is it captures a snapshot of the view state. So each time you return to any comment, it takes you right back to that model view. You can mention people in the comments, so if you want to send a notification back to someone with your comment or with your markup, here I'm going to get notified with Debbie's markup here. That's pretty wild. So yeah, it's a really seamless thing to do. And again, there's no download, no install, no file transfer, no manual file transfer. It's all handled automatically for you.
That's really cool. So it strikes me that, it's free to the recipient. They're basically they're logging in and they see have access to all of these tools. And even that functionality, I was thinking, like, where have I seen that before? Where you sort of see the screen flash for a second, the viewport flash, and all of a sudden how you have what looks like a screenshot of the file. But like you were saying,
actually,
it's not really
that. Bonus feature too. Actually, let me do a little bonus.
Okay.
So I was mentioned in the comments there. Remember that?
Right.
So what do I see back on my end? I'm the originator of the data, and maybe I'm away from my SolidWorks session. So here I am just on my iPad. As soon as I click on that notification, I'm also in that browser-based viewer. So I have interactive access to the model. I can rotate it around, view, measure, markup, cross section, whatever. But then I see all of that those comment threads that have been added. As soon as I touch on one of those comments, see how it just returns me to whatever the view state was when that person added the comment.
Oh, cool. So
it's not just a screenshot though.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's fully interactive at that point. So
wow.
Very neat. And then, I can continue the thread if I want to add my own comments and markups. I've got access to all those tools in basically any kind of browser environment that I want to run that from. So really completes the loop of that external collaboration. It's really nice. I'm pretty excited about what we're doing on that front of bridging the gap between sharing and viewing.
Yeah, I was just thinking about as you were showing that off a bit, if I think about e-drawings, right? We've used that as a comparison, or even screenshots and emails. There's obviously a lot that you cannot do in those sorts of mediums that you can do here. But one of the things that strikes me is that you think about how we tend to communicate now. If we have like an online, like cloud-based spreadsheet tool, or even an area like Instagram, where it would seem insane that we'd be commenting, within the image object or within the video object, right? It's just there. It's there in its form, and then you have comments, you have dialogue next to it. That's sort of the common day expectation. So. As before, if you're making markups, if you're doing that, you're sending a file back and forth, and it lives in that file, and it cannot be seen in that file unless you have something installed to view it. Which, when you look at something like this, where you're just logging in and you can mention people and tag them and they get updated, and it isn't one of those things where like the markups and the measurements are trapped in a file. It's just go back to that link, and it's all there. It's very, like we said at the beginning, it's very, very kind of modern.
Yeah, very modern, and nothing wrong with the old ways. Those are going to stick around for a long time, because I think there's a segment of people who will continue to get value out of tools like e-drawings and pack and go and all that. It's just that we're adapting to newer, more modern ways to work that really are enabled by an online environment. It's great.
For sure. Well, cool. Brad, thank you so much for jumping on. This is we talked about it before the show. That's just the beginning, actually, of our exploration of this brand new tool. And hey, I can't promise you that I won't invite you and your iPad back for our huge June episode. So please clear your schedule.
Okay, I'll give Siri a heads up, and we'll make it happen. But yeah, a lot to come in the coming months for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brad.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Wow, that was a lot. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this episode of Solidworks Live. Hey, if you didn't know, we have just about 12 of these every year. It acts as the primary place to let you in on all of our product announcements, like we have today, all of our new stuff, and community stories and achievements, like we did with last month's episode, which was actually an update on our community programs here at SolidWorks. So if you're interested in that, please consider subscribing here on YouTube. We would love to continue educating and inspiring each other. And one of our most important episodes of the year is coming in June, right? So the best is yet to come. I mentioned SolidWorks Viewer is one of the most searched for SolidWorks related keywords in the world today. And as Brad merely teased with some of his demos there, we're about to change the game there. So if you thought eDrawings was cool or really ever useful to you or anyone you know, you are going to want to check out this landmark episode coming up in June. We are going to focus intently on deep diving into the new sharing features available to everyone who purchases SolidWorks beginning in July. And hey, if you can't wait until then, just go to this link. Very easy. We'll send it in the chat as well. solidworks.com/it's time. So what are you going to get here? We are updating it nearly daily with new information, demos, and actually, as of just yesterday, an FAQ section that gets into frequently asked questions that we've heard from you already thus far. One example being, how do I know if I have all this great stuff already? So be sure to check that out, solidworks.com/it's time. And here on the live streaming side, SolidWorks Live is just one of our live streaming programs. We will be back, in fact, tomorrow. So we'll be back with Live Design, which is our program where we learn from and get to know one another by, sharing tips and tricks inside of SolidWorks. Oftentimes we have you guys, our users, come on, and we have tons of episodes available for replay on YouTube. But once again, we'll be live tomorrow, Friday at 12 p.m. And simply put, if you want to see a fun example of how other SolidWorks native utilities, like those specifically designed for 3D printing prep, can help you get your designs additively manufactured with an eye towards multi-part assembly post-print, hey, definitely check this fun example out. And a fun fact about this example, by the way, as we close, our team actually made 30 of these action figures and gave them away in tandem with a $30,000 giveaway to the Magic Wheelchair Foundation. Just insane. We did that at 3D Experience World. It was an awesome time. But as far as this episode goes, the one we did today, thank you so much to our team at Kramer, our producer Ian, and all of our guests today. And of course, thank you as well. We will see you soon.